Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining me. My name is Lauren. I'm going to lead you through a gentle yoga practice where we're going to focus on back bending, taking mild and moderate back bends to strengthen the back and open the chest, open the shoulders, and bring more mobility into the spine. So that's where we're going. And like always, if something doesn't feel right, you don't have to do it. Know that it's your practice and it's your body. You have full authority over your body. So you can skip or modify anything that I say. Listen to your body first and the teacher second. That goes for any class you take ever. So listen to yourself first. So for today's practice, I would suggest having a thinly folded towel or a blanket or something to place under your head. We're going to be on our backs for a while at the beginning. And then also a pillow that's a little bit bigger, more than just this towel. I like just like a throw pillow, but you can grab a pillow from your bed. It doesn't have to be this size. This is just what I had close by. And I have 2 blocks, but you absolutely do not need 2 blocks. But I will need you to have some sort of pillow or something, even if you take a bigger towel and roll it up, something for at the end of the practice. Okay, but we really don't need most of this stuff right now. So we are gonna start on our backs. And I'm gonna place this thinly folded blanket or towel under my head, because this is again where we're gonna be on our backs for a while, but that is optional. But especially if you feel like you have tightness through your neck and your shoulders, this will help. So instead of just letting your head be right on the mat, this will help relax your neck and your shoulders. All right, so we'll start on our backs. Let's start in constructive resting pose. So bend the knees, feet are flat on the ground. We'll bring the feet out wide so they're at about the edges of the mat. Hook the big toes in just a little bit so your big toes are a little closer together, and let the knees knock in. Arms can rest about a foot away from the body with the palms up. And allow your eyes to softly close. Let yourself relax. Let your body really arrive in this position. Let it settle into this pose. Settling in a very passive and easy way. Allow your muscles to relax, your body to soften. Allow your body to feel gravity's pull as if the earth is hugging you and cradling you. And as you let your body rest and relax, turn your attention to your breath. And notice your breath for a few moments. Notice if you're breathing through your nose or your mouth. Notice if your breath makes a sound or if it's silent. Notice the texture. Notice if your breath is smooth and fluid or if it feels choppy or like it's interrupted. And it might feel like there is a right and a wrong answer here, but you're just observing. So maybe your breath is choppy. Maybe your breath makes a sound. Maybe you breathe through your mouth. There's no right or wrong answers here. We're just noticing the natural ebb and flow of the breath. Now you're welcome to stay here, just observing your organic breath. Just watching, noticing, experiencing breathing. Or maybe you bring your attention to wherever your breath enters your body. So whether that's your nose or your mouth, I'll cue as if it's the nose, but of course it's applicable to the mouth. Notice the space where the air around you transforms into your breath. So noticing the first space where air makes contact. So if this is your nose, using the tip of the nostrils. Notice the space where air touches the tip of your nostrils. Where again, air and oxygen becomes your breath, becomes your prana, your life source, this nutrients for your body. Where does that shift take place? So again, maybe the tip of the nostrils. Bring your attention to that one spot. And then really notice the breath in that space. And as you inhale, notice the temperature. As the breath comes in to your body, in past your nostrils, what is the temperature of the breath here? It probably feels a little cooler, maybe has a chill to it. And just notice as you inhale the temperature of the breath at the tip of the nostrils. And then slowly shift your focus to the exhalation. Notice the temperature of the breath at the tip of the nostrils as you exhale. What is the temperature like as you breathe out? It probably feels a little warmer, has a little heat to it. So notice that feeling, that temperature of the breath as you exhale, as the breath exits your body, as it passes through the nostrils. Notice what it feels like. And then combining the two parts of the breath, notice the cool air passing in as you inhale, the warm air exiting as you exhale, the chill as you inhale, the heat as you exhale. Noticing that you are manipulating the air around you, again, where just the air that exists around you transforms into your breath, this nourishing, nutrient breath. Notice this at the tip of the nostrils for a few more moments. and you can slowly release that concentration on the breath. Breathe in a natural way, but keep your energy quiet and soft. Just releasing that meditation. Now, keeping your focus inside, internal, and present. If it feels right for you, you're welcome to set an intention for your practice, asking yourself what brought you to your mat. The answer might be a physical quality like strength or flexibility. It might be something a little more abstract like peace, clarity, centering, or grounding. Again, there's not a right or a wrong answer here. Just make sure your answer is a positive word or phrase. And then give yourself some time to slowly repeat, either out loud or silently, this intention that you've set for yourself, to allow it to settle in your heart. If at any point in the practice you get distracted or you get disconnected, come back to your intention. Silently and slowly repeat your intention like a mantra. And now gently bring some movement into your body. Maybe allow your head to rock from side to side. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Move arms and legs. Give yourself a few moments to move in any way that feels good for you. Maybe take a full body stretch. Maybe hug your knees into your chest. We're again going to stay on our backs for a little bit longer. So give yourself some movement here before we do that. So we'll all meet with the knees bent and the feet flat. Feet and knees about hip distance apart. Arms can rest alongside the body. Palms up or palms down. Now for those of you familiar with cat and cow that we generally practice in tabletop on our hands and knees, we're going to do a much smaller, milder version of that here. So it's often referred to as a pelvic tilt. It's going to start to warm up our spine in a very soft and subtle way, but it will be important later. So, as you inhale, allow your belly to lift towards the ceiling. Tip your pelvis so your belly button points towards your thighs. There should be a space between your lower back and the floor here. So you're in a little bit of a back bend, sort of like our cow pose. And then as you exhale, tilt your pelvis towards your face. Your belly button points towards your face. You now push your ribs and your lower back into the floor. You might feel your abs engaged. That's good. So we're not necessarily in our cat pose, but we are tilting the pelvis towards the face. That's going to help us warm up the lower back, which is where most of us struggle. So we'll keep moving like this. Inhale as you draw the belly forward. Tip your belly button towards your thighs. And then exhale, tuck the tailbone, belly button toward the face, push the ribs into the floor. There now should be no space between your back and the mat. You shouldn't even be able to slip a piece of paper here. So inhale, draw the belly up and away, belly button towards the thighs. Exhale, belly button down, ribs down, spine down, belly button tips towards your face. And move at your own pace here. Inhale as you let the belly rise. Exhale as you draw the belly down. And you might not feel much of a stretch here. That's okay. Again, we'll get into some different back bends that are certainly deeper than this. We're not going to come into anything too deep. Back bends are often a movement we don't do through an average day. For most of us, if it wasn't for our yoga practice, we wouldn't move our spine in that direction through the day. Sitting, slouching, even standing, we're often in the opposite of a back bend. We're often in a forward bend. So back bends are really helpful to counteract all the movements we do through the day. And so we're just starting slow because again, our body might not be ready for it, for something deep just yet, especially if you're practicing first thing in the morning like I am. You need that warm up. So let's do one more of each. Again, this sort of reclined cat and cow, this pelvic tilt. We're focusing mostly on the lower section of the torso here. And then you can return back to neutral. So neither forward or back, sort of right in the center. That's more neutral. Now we're going to wake up the hamstrings, the backs of the thighs. These are also very tight early in the morning. So inhale, exhale, hug your right thigh in towards your belly. Bring your hands to the back of your thigh so you're really holding onto your hamstrings. Your hamstrings are the muscles that run along the back of your thigh from about the knee to about the sit bone. So your hands will be on those muscles, but try to relax your hands even though you're pulling the thigh into the belly. Let the arms relax and the chest and shoulders relax. Now inhale, reach your right foot towards the ceiling. Exhale, bend at the knee. Inhale, lengthen the leg. Exhale, bend the knee. And we're going to stay here for several breaths. Inhale, reach the foot for the sky. Exhale, drop the foot towards the floor. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, bend. And we'll do a few more. Move at the pace of your breath. But as we're moving, and you might see in my body, my thigh really is not moving. We're not moving the entire leg. We're just hinging at the knee. So just from the knee to the toes, there's movement, but the thigh is staying still. We want to anchor the hamstrings at the sit bone, way up by the pelvis and the hips, and just move the end at the knee. We're going to move the whole length of the back of the leg momentarily, but again, hamstrings are often very tight early in the morning or throughout the entire day, especially if you've been sitting all day. If you've been sitting all day, your hamstrings are probably just as tight in the evening as they were in the morning. Okay, but let's do one more. And then you can slowly release your hands, let your right foot come down. Just pause for a moment with feet flat, knees bent to notice how your two legs, maybe even hips, feel different. You might feel like the blood is sort of coursing through the right leg, maybe even all the way to the toes. One more breath here. Okay, and then inhale. Exhale, hug the left thigh in. Hold on to the back of the thigh as opposed to the shin. And you'll draw the thigh into the belly, but relax the shoulders. And even here, thinking about relaxing the shoulders and arms, I like to interlace my fingers the other way on the second side. Something to think about, even little things like this where you favor one side, switching whenever you can. If it makes really no difference to you, taking the opposite side. Okay, so hugging the thigh in, keeping the thigh still, inhale, reach the left foot to the ceiling. Exhale, bend the left knee. Inhale, left foot to the sky. Exhale, bend the left knee. And again, you'll notice that the left thigh will stay still, which means that the left leg will not become a straight line. You'll notice here in my body, my left knee is still bent. I'm not a straight line. This isn't a deep hamstring stretch. That's not the intention here just yet. So that's not the goal. A straight leg is not the goal here. You'll have opportunities for that later in some forward folds, and if you choose to take maybe a down dog. But even in those poses, in my own body, and everyone's body is different, I usually keep my knees softly bent in just about every forward fold and downward facing dog. it feels best in my body. I feel the length in my spine more in especially down dog, which really is the priority. We might not even come to down dog though, so that might not necessarily be applicable today, but in your own practice otherwise, something to think about. So we'll do this about one more time, getting the leg a little bit longer, but not necessarily straight. And then slowly let the left foot come down, release your hands. And then again, just notice that left leg. Maybe you're just feeling it in the hamstring, but maybe you feel something through the hip, the knee, the calf, the foot, and the toes. Take a breath. All right. So just now we were stretching and warming up the hamstrings by allowing them to lengthen. Now we're going to warm them up by allowing them to shorten, contract, and work. So if you're resting your head on something that's more like a pillow, I would remove it. If it's something fairly dense, if it's something small and a little bit firmer, you can keep it, but if it bothers your neck, then remove it. I'm going to keep what I've got, but if it were any thicker than this, I would remove it. Okay, so knees bent, feet flat. And I know you can't see your feet, but position your feet so they feel like they look like the number 11. So not a V, not sort of an upside down A or an upside down V, I guess, but they look like the number 11, toes forward. Arms will rest alongside the body, palms down, but you will relax your arms. Resist the temptation to push your arms down. It's not bad for you. I just want the work to be really coming from the legs and the hamstrings. Now we start with that pelvic tilt that we did earlier. So draw your ribs down, draw your lower back into the floor. There should be no space between your lower back and the floor. Your belly button is tipped towards your face. You might feel your abs engage. That's good. Now keep the tuck of the tailbone and push your feet into the ground to lift your lower back, lift your mid back, and reach your hips to the sky. You should feel your lower back, your glutes, and your hamstrings engage. Again, they're going to shorten and contract. So we're warming them up, but in an active way instead of a passive way. Now keep the tuck of your tailbone. So instead of letting your belly come to the ceiling, draw your belly down. Make sure that at your hip flexors, there's no wrinkles here. Where your thigh meets your torso, there's no wrinkles. That's another way you know you're tucking your tailbone. But keep the tuck of the tailbone. Inhale. Exhale, slowly lower. Lower the mid-back, the low back. Keep the tuck of the tailbone smooth at the hip flexors until the last second. And then before we do that again, you can allow your ribs to lift and then come back to the tuck. Belly down, ribs down. Smooth out the hip flexors as you inhale and lift. Reach. Rise to the sky, squeeze the glutes at the top, engage the back body. We're again working the legs. We're actively warming them up. You should feel them firing. Inhale, exhale, keep the tuck of the tailbone, smooth at the hip flexors, at the hip crease, but exhale. Lower down, very slow and steady. When you get to the bottom, you can allow the ribs to lift. We're going to do that one more time. Push the ribs down, low belly down, tuck the tailbone, inhale, lift. Smooth out by the hip flexors. Allow the hips to reach and rise to the ceiling. Engage the glutes in towards the center. Lift the hips, but relax the shoulders, the arms, and the hands. Take a breath here. Bridge pose, Sattu Bandha Sarvangasana. Inhale. Exhale, keep the tuck of the tailbone, but slowly lower all the way back down. And again, you can allow the ribs to lift and then lower, return back to neutral. So there's a little bit of space here. In my body, I can slide my fingers under, but not my whole hand. And I certainly couldn't make a fist, where when we were doing the pelvic tilt, I probably could have made a fist under my lower back. But here, just some fingers can slide back. So for a few moments, let's come back to constructive resting pose. Bring the feet to the edges of the mat. Let the knees knock in and just rest. Your lower back and glutes and hamstrings were again all working. And these are all spaces that tend to get very tight
and very weak. Just because something is tight doesn't mean it's strong. Sometimes that does happen, especially in, for example, professional athletes. They're very strong, but they're not very flexible. They're very tight. But just because something is tight doesn't mean it's strong. The logic doesn't go both ways. So these spaces are tight, but often not very strong. So we just want to let them sort of relax for a moment because they might not be used to that movement. Stay for one more breath. Okay, and then inhale. Exhale, hug your knees into your chest. Now your lower back is probably really pushing into the floor, so it might feel good to rock from side to side or trace circles with your knees, sort of massaging your lower back into the floor. If this feels good for you here, I would suggest coming to this often. So whether that's in your own practice or you're taking a class and a teacher gives you an opportunity to do something that feels good, or whatever, at the end of the workday, you want to do this on a firm surface, so not necessarily on your bed. It probably wouldn't feel quite as good, but massaging your lower back is not a bad idea. Break up some of that tension, break up any tightness or stress you might be carrying in the lower back, which is common for most of us. So one more breath here, just kind of moving around as long as it feels good. Massaging, relaxing through those muscles. They were working just now, so let's massage them, give them a break. And then we're going to roll over onto our sides. You can roll onto either side, but lengthen whatever side you're going to come onto, lengthen that arm towards the wall behind you and roll over. So you're resting your ear on your arm, so you're coming to a tucked fetal position. And whenever we're moving through any yoga practice, whether it's a gentle or a vinyasa or something in between, know that there's never any rush. You should never feel like you're in a hurry. You should never feel like you're running late within a yoga class. Maybe you're running late to the class, that's different. But within the class, you shouldn't feel like, I've got to get to the next pose. So even in these moments, just take a beat, take a breath. And then firmly push your top hand down into the ground, and then allow the other arm to come down to lift yourself up. So using the strength of both arms to lift. And now we're going to come to a seat. So I like to sit on something. If you've got a block, that's a great thing to sit on. You could sit on the pillow, the towel, the blanket, whatever you've got. We won't be here too long, but elevating your hips will help your hips, especially your hip flexors, relax, which is a good thing. Okay, so let your legs relax, sit up tall, lengthen through the spine. We've already done some of this work with the spine. It's sort of mobile and warmed up. So really sort of take advantage of that. Now you can sit up a little taller. Let the shoulders relax. We're gonna move a little bit through the neck. So lengthen up, but let the shoulders relax. I like to do this with my eyes closed, but obviously you're welcome to have your eyes open for this. But imagine that the top of your head is tracing a small circle on the ceiling. So it's just tracing this small circle right up overhead. And then allow the circle to become a spiral. Allow with every rotation, the circle gets a little larger. The circles increase with every time you go around. And allow the head to move in a smooth, fluid way. Hopefully from up overhead, it really does look like a circle instead of some made up shape, squiggly lines. And if it does, that's okay. But allowing it to be a fairly smooth, fluid motion. And once you start to make really large circles, you might notice that there are some sound effects happening. Try to avoid those. So that might mean that the circle needs to be a little bit smaller. So for example, in my body, when my head comes back, that's when I hear clicking, snapping, cracking, popping. That's not really what we're after. So you might have to make that side of the circle a little bit smaller. That's okay. All right, and then from wherever you're at, do this one more time, and we'll meet with our chin towards our chest at the center with the head just hanging forward towards the lap. Take a moment. Check in with the spine, lengthen the spine, soften the shoulders, let the head feel heavy, and then reverse the direction of the circles.
So starting with large circles, but again, not so large that there's any sound effects. Sound effects and that sort of cracking, popping, snapping sounds, those are highly debated in the yoga world. Some instructors insist that there's nothing wrong with it. Some instructors really believe that there is a problem there, allowing those sounds. So I think with your neck, better safe than sorry. Okay, so smooth fluid circles. Do about one more large circle. And then start to trace that spiral going in. Make the rotation a little bit smaller with every rotation. Decrease the size of the circle. So you gradually, slowly, eventually make your way back. Remember, there's no hurry, there's no rush. You are listening to your body, you are guiding your own practice. The whole part of the practice, the whole point of the practice is to listen to your body, connect to your body. So do what you need to eventually come back in your own time. And then once your head comes back to the center, you can bring it to stillness. Take a deep breath. Okay. And then slowly allow your eyelids to flutter open if your eyes were closed. Okay. All right, from here we'll come to tabletop, onto all fours on our hands and knees. So again, props. If you've got blocks, which is perfectly fine if you don't, I would bring them to the top two corners of your mat. And we're going to be kneeling for a little bit, not that long, but we will be kneeling on one side at a time for a while. So you might bring your blanket, your towel, or whatever you need under the knees. Or you might fold over your mat, put a kink in your mat, that's fine too. Or nothing. You might be on a rug like I am, and so you might be fine here. But really protect your joints. Anything that we do, we're going to start right here, getting into some movements that take some work. These next several movements are going to take some work. We're going to need the muscles to engage and strengthen, and you should feel like your muscles are fatiguing, but we want muscles to fatigue, not joints. Joints should not be feeling pressure or pain or anything like that. We want muscles, the space along the bones, not where the bones meet. That's where we want the work, along the bones and the muscles. Okay, so we're going to come into spinal balance here. So hands are under shoulders, knees are under hips. I like the tops of the feet down, but you can have the toes hooked under if that's better in your ankles. Now we want to make sure that the spine is in neutral. So we're not doing either one of those pelvic tilt actions. We want the spine in neutral. The longer that we're here and when we start to build onto this movement, your ribs are going to want to start to sag down. This is not what we're going for. We want to tuck the tailbone so the spine is long and in neutral. Think about creating a wrinkle in the front of your shirt by your belly button. And we want to keep the neck in neutral, so look at the tip of your right thumb. Look at the tip of your right thumb and reach your left fingertips forward. Left fingertips will reach forward, left thumb to the sky, like you're about to shake someone's hand with your left hand. Now you're welcome to stay here. We want to really push the right hand down, lift up and out of that armpit. You should not feel like you're shrugging the shoulder. Then you're going to feel it in the shoulder. Again, we don't want to feel it in the joint. We want to feel it in the muscle. Arm, feel it through the length of the arm. Now you can stay here, but keep looking at the tip of your right thumb and maybe you reach your right leg back. Push through the heel, your right toes will point down. Now again, this is where your ribs are going to really want to sag down. Draw the ribs up and in. There should be a wrinkle in the front of your shirt by your belly button. Lift up and out of that right armpit. Lift up and lengthen. Often we get so concerned with lifting, we lose the form. We want length here just as much as we want lift. Stay for one more deep breath. Inhale. Exhale, slowly lower the hand and the knee. See if they can touch the mat at the same time. Really be in control of the release, not just while you're in the pose. Okay, so same thing, second side. You're going to look at the tip of your left thumb. That's going to help keep your neck in neutral. Oftentimes people want to look forward, but this really isn't what we're looking for in the neck. So look down at the tip of your left thumb. Reach your right fingertips forward, thumb to the sky like you're going to shake someone's hand. and lengthen the left leg back, or keep the knee on the ground. You also could do this with both hands down and just lengthening the leg back. But either way, allow the ribs to draw up, spine is long, wrinkle by the belly button in the shirt. Lengthen the left leg back, right fingertips forward. We want length in addition to lift, and push the left hand down to create that lift. Spinal balance or bird dog, take a deep breath. Inhale, exhale, return. Can the hand and the knee touch at the same time? Okay, all right. So we're gonna move on from here. If you have something under your knees, I would remove it, or if you put a kink in your mat, I would remove it. I think it's gonna start to get in the way. All right, so from here, we're gonna come to an optional downward facing dog. If it's not in your practice, you don't have to come to it. If downward facing dog is in your practice, walk your hands one whole handprint closer to the top of your mat. Hook your toes under, stretch through the bottoms of your feet. Inhale, let the knees hover. Exhale, downward facing dog. Now, if you're in downward facing dog and this feels good, you can stay here. Maybe pedal out the heels. Maybe bend the knees, straighten the knees, do what you need to. If downward facing dog is not in your practice and this is not an accessible pose for you, this is where blocks come in handy, but if you don't have blocks, that's okay. But from tabletop, you're just gonna step 1 foot forward in between your hands or in between the blocks if hands are on blocks. Hook the back toes under, lift that knee even just a little to step that foot forward. And if you are in downward facing dog, deeply bend the knees and start to travel forward into forward fold. We'll all meet in forward fold, downward facing dog. Into forward fold, Uttanasana. So here, this is forward fold, and sometimes we think that the intention is straight legs, but oftentimes when we straighten the legs, it starts to round in the lower back and pulls in the lower back a little bit more. Think about the backs of your legs and the back of your torso, your whole backside, have a connection. So if the legs are straight, the spine is really taking on a deep stretch, and it might be too deep. But if you bend your knees, the spine can relax. So there's this relationship here. So really sort of play with what feels good for you. It might mean a deep bend in the knees. It might mean a little bit of a bend. It might mean no bend. That's okay. But just know that that's really asking a lot of the backside of your body. We'll stay in forward fold for just one more breath. Now firmly push your heels into the ground and inhale, lift halfway. We're gonna hold it here for a few moments. So hands can always come to blocks or to shins or to thighs, but make sure it's not the knees. And reach the crown of your head forward and your tailbone back. Your spine is in neutral. So we're again not in a cat or a cow, a long neutral spine. There's probably a wrinkle in the front of your shirt by your belly button. And your hip flexors certainly have a wrinkle here. This is where the movement really stems from. Now, maintain the length, push the heels down, inhale, rise, fingertips to the sky. Maybe add a little bit of a back bend by looking up between your palms, but exhale, slowly bring your hands to your heart, take a deep breath in mountain pose. Okay. Now we're gonna come into some of these lunges where we're gonna be asking the legs to work. So inhale, reach the fingertips up, maybe even look up. Exhale, hinge at the hips, create a deep crease here, at your hip flexor, and then fold forward. Now again, this is where blocks are gonna come in handy, but if you don't have them, that's okay. Deeply bend the knees, bring the hands down, and step the right foot back. Now we're gonna pause in runner's lunge. So whether your hands are on blocks or not, your hands are under your shoulders. Oftentimes, especially with blocks, people keep their blocks off their mat and their hands are very wide. This is not the ideal and safest position for your shoulder. We always want your hands under your shoulders. Almost every pose like this, hands are under shoulders. Okay, so we draw the right leg back, the left heel down into the floor. You should be able to wiggle your left toes. I want your left leg, your quads, especially the top of the thigh, working hard. Feel it in the muscle, not the joint. Okay, now keep drawing again, right heel back, left heel down. Feel the work through the legs, take a breath. Okay, and then we're going to drop the right knee down onto the ground. You might put something again under your right knee. Okay, and I like the top of the right foot down, but again, you can curl it under. Now you're welcome to stay here, or bring your hands to the top of your left thigh and lift your torso. Find some stability. If you feel like your balance is really being challenged here, instead of having your legs sort of narrow, widen them along the width of your mat. So maybe just heel toe your left foot over to the left one movement, and then you have a wider base. So instead of being like on a tightrope, each foot is in its own lane of traffic. Okay, so we want to lengthen. This is hard for you to see in your own body, but the hope is that your right knee and your right hip are stacked, that your thigh makes a straight line, not a diagonal line. That's not a bad thing. We're just gonna focus on the upper body, and doing this takes away the focus on the upper body. So you might have to draw your hips back. Push the top of your right foot down if you've got that down. Push the left heel down and reach your fingertips to the sky. Okay, so we're sort of in this modified crescent lunge. You're welcome to stay here, or to really start to open the chest and shoulders, come to goal post. Bend at your elbows, so your elbows make a right angle. I like palms facing forward in the same direction as my chest. So here, you're not really opening your chest and shoulders, but if you start to draw your arms back and push your heart forward, you should start to feel an opening in the front of the chest and the shoulders. Now check in with the legs. Keep pushing the left heel down. You can wiggle your left toes. Right knee, shin, and foot push down so that you can lengthen, so that you can expand. You've got to root down to rise to expand. These all have a sort of domino effect on one another. Now, instead of just bringing your arms back in a passive way, contract the muscles of your back. Squeeze your shoulder blades in toward each other. If you're familiar with the fitness exercise of a row, bent over row, upright row, seated row, anything like that, we want to engage those muscles just like you would there. Stay for one more breath. And then inhale, bring the hands down onto something. Allow the right knee to lift up off the ground. Inhale, exhale, step forward, forward fold. We're going to do that on the second side, so deeply bend the knees. Step the left foot back. You might put some padding under that left knee. Oh, actually, we're coming to the runner's lunge first, sorry. that pose felt really good. I was looking forward to doing it on the second side, and we'll get there. But first, the runner's lunge, I want your legs working first. Then we'll stretch the upper body. So, right heel pushes down. You can wiggle your right toes. Left heel reaches back so that there's length happening in the back of that leg. We don't want the left knee sagging down. We want it really lifted up. We're going to come to a different variation later where that's okay. But here I want the knee away from the mat instead of letting it sag down. So you're really powering through that left heel. Left leg is engaged. Stay for a breath in the runner's lunge. Okay, and then allow the left knee to drop. Again, it's uncomfortable for me to keep the toes hooked under. It also isn't quite as stable, so I like the top of the foot down, but your call. But bring your hands to the top of your right thigh and lift your torso. Find some stability. Again, I like to sort of heel toe my right foot, just one toe, one heel over to the right. And this is hard for you to see in your own body, but the hope is that your back leg, that back thigh, the femur, is a vertical line instead of at a diagonal. There you'll feel a stretch in your hip, but that's not what we're focusing on here. So that's not wrong. We do that in another practice, but I'm gonna focus on the upper body. So right heel down, left foot, left shin, left knee down. Inhale, reach fingertips up. You can stay here or exhale, goal post. Okay, so goal post are sort of cactus arms. Elbows are bent at a right angle, fingertips to the sky. I like palms facing forward, feels best in my shoulders. So there's a big difference between just letting your arms be here and or just pushing your arms back. There's no work happening here. I don't feel a stretch. I have to engage the back muscles so that the back muscles essentially pull the heart forward. So if you're familiar with Cobra, which we'll get there in a moment, you've got to work to get into Cobra, right? You've got to push through the arms. So now I want you to pull back like you're drawing your shoulder blades in toward each other. The shoulder blades come closer together. The shoulders relax away from the ears, because just because they draw in doesn't mean they also need to come up. You allow the squeezing of your back muscles pushes your heart forward. It propels your heart forward. One more deep breath. And then inhale, bring the hands down. Okay. Now you can hook the back toes under, lift that knee, inhale, exhale, step it back, step it forward, excuse me. Stay for a breath, forward fold. Okay. Now we're going to do that again. We're going to combine the movements. So bend the knees, step the right foot back. Now just like the first round, you can drop the right knee to the ground or keep it lifted. We're going to combine the runner's lunge and the goalpost arms. So your call, you're more than welcome to drop the back knee. But we're going to keep the right heel off the ground. Oftentimes when we lift, people pivot the foot. That's not wrong. It's just not what we're doing right now. So all 10 toes point forward. Each foot is in its own lane of traffic. Deeply bend the left knee. Bring your hands to the top of your left thigh to help lift your torso. Find stability. Now here in this version, now it's okay to let the back knee drop. Before I wanted it straight and charging and long, but that's going to probably pull your pelvis forward, and then the back bend won't be quite as satisfying. So you might bend the back knee a little. That's all right. But they're working. The legs are working. Inhale, fingertips to the sky. Exhale, goalpost. Elbows at a right angle. Fingertips to the sky, palms forward. Now squeeze your back muscles. Engage the back side of your body like you're pulling your heart forward. Broaden your collarbones. Expand through the chest and heart because of the work that's happening in your back. Again, there's a big difference between just allowing the arms to come back and relax. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not nearly as deep or as active and productive as an effortful back bend. So one more breath. Inhale, exhale, bring the hands down. Inhale, pause. Exhale, step forward. Take a breath. Deeply bend the knees. Inhale, exhale, left foot steps back. Okay, so this is our last lunge, our last standing pose. After this, we're going to come to the mat. We're still going to work, but it's not going to be in the legs, and it's not going to be like this. So feet are hip distance apart, all 10 toes forward. The back heel should not come down. We're not going for a warrior one or a warrior two. So toes forward, bend the right knee, push the right heel down, bring the hands to the top of the right thigh to lift your torso. Steady yourself. There's no rush. There's no hurry. Again, often on the second side, people know where we're going and they start to, but you move into the pose before you really found a strong, stable base. Think about it like building a house. You need a strong foundation first. You start at the bottom. Okay, so right knee comes forward, right heel pushes down. You can wiggle your right toes. Left toes point forward, heel off the ground, the knee can bend. Inhale, reach fingertips up. Exhale, goalpost. Elbows at a right angle, like this. Fingertips to the sky, palm forward. Now, there's a difference between being here and being active. Pull your heart forward. So I want you to feel work in the backs of your shoulders. You'll feel your posterior deltoids, your rhomboids, and your lats, and your serratus. So all of these muscles, and these are all muscles that very infrequently get worked. Even in yoga classes, even in fitness classes, even if you go to the gym and you lift weights, my guess is that you are working the front side of the body, what you see in the mirror, and not those muscles. So again, posterior delts, rhomboids, lats, serratus. All of these muscles are so important, okay? So allow the left knee to bend, maybe a little more. Work those legs. Draw the arms back, propel the heart forward. Take a breath. Inhale, exhale, bring the hands down. Now we're going to come to the mat. So you can bring the left knee down and then the right knee down. We're going to come all the way onto our stomachs. You don't need anything here, so you can set all of your props off to the side. We don't need them. And just make your way flat onto your stomach. Okay, so here's where we're gonna do more active back bends. So we're gonna continue to work all those muscles that I mentioned. So let's start here by bringing the arms alongside your body. Palms will face in towards your thighs. Fingertips reach back. Let the tops of your feet rest on the floor, but push your hips into the ground. Push your pelvis into the ground, push your pubic bone into the ground, belly into the ground, hips into the ground, and lift your upper body. Lift your head, neck, chest, shoulders, arms, and hands off the ground. Now I want you to lift up, and I want you to look down. I want you to look down at your mat, maybe the top of your mat. There should be no wrinkles in the back of your neck. Lengthen the back of your neck, protect your neck. Now, as we're here, you should start to feel your back working. You might feel it in the low back, you might feel it in the mid back, but you should not feel it in your neck. Now, this is a back bend. It's an active, effortful back bend where you're working to accomplish this shape. Stay for a breath. Inhale, exhale, slowly lower. You can stack your hands and rest your forehead or your cheek and just let everything relax and rest. Notice how you feel. Okay, we're going to do that again. But this time, instead of lifting the upper body, we're going to lift the lower body. So from here, stack your hands and rest your forehead down on your hands. I'm not going to do that because I don't think you can hear me when I talk down into my mat like that. But I want your neck in neutral. You're looking down right at your mat. Your nose might even be brushing against your mat. That's okay. I want your neck in neutral, your upper body relaxed. Okay, so legs are long. Feet are either together or hip distance. No wider than hip distance. I can almost guarantee that when we lift the legs, your feet are going to go wide about mat distance. Draw them in. Okay. So push your hips down, push your belly down, your pelvis down, your pubic bone down, and lift your legs. Now, we want to lift them up, but draw them a little closer together. Maybe they even touch, but no wider than mat distance, or no wider than hip distance, excuse me. Now, push your hips down, lift not just the shins, but lift the tops of your thighs off the ground. Work your legs. Can you relax your shoulders, though? Can you relax your arms, the muscles of your face? Even though all of this work is going on in the legs and the back, take a breath. And then slowly lower down. You can turn so you're resting on your cheek again, if that's more comfortable. Okay, now the next one, we're going to add the upper back. So those first two, you probably felt it mostly in your lower back and your mid back. Now we're going to add mid back and upper back. We're going to add another layer to this. So we're going to relax the legs again. We're coming back closer to the first variation. Tops of the feet down, just let the legs relax. Let your arms reach out at diagonals. So from up overhead, you look like a capital Y. I like palms facing down, but palms can face each other. That's fine. You're going to look down at your mat. Lengthen the back of your neck, no wrinkles in the back of your neck. Push your hips down, pubic bone down, pelvis down, belly down, hips down to lift your upper body. Lift the hands, arms, head, neck, and chest up away from the floor. Now, keeping the lift in your chest, draw your elbows back, even past goalpost. So your arms look like the letter W, elbows are deeply bent, not at a right angle like before. Now lengthen your arms back out to the letter Y and lower down. We're going to do a few more. So lift your whole upper body, chest off the floor. Draw the elbows back. Squeeze your upper back, lats, serratus, rhomboids, deltoids, and then reach forward and slowly lower down. We're going to do 3 more. Lift up away from the floor. Draw elbows back in toward each other. Lengthen the arms out and lower down. 2 more. Lift, reach, rise, draw the elbows back, squeeze, lengthen the arms forward, lower, down. Absolute last one. Inhale, lift, reach, and rise.
Draw the elbows back, engage. Reach fingertips forward, slowly lower down, stack your hands, rest your forehead or your cheek. Notice how you feel. Now, throughout those last movements that we did, I wanted you to feel like you were working. So just because these are gentle movements doesn't mean they are passive. These are gentle movements. They take work, they take effort, but they're very accessible. So whatever it was that you were feeling, it was just those muscles working, maybe for the first time in a long time. I think that's very common, and that's okay. So whatever you were feeling, that was work, that was effort, that was those muscles and your back getting stronger. Again, countering all the slouching and slumping and bad posture. Okay, we're gonna take one more active back bend and then we're gonna rest. So this is entirely your call, but you're gonna lift your head and bring your hands under your shoulders. We're gonna come into Cobra, Bhujangasana. So hands can be under the shoulders. Really, they should slide back a little bit more so they're more in line with your ribs. You're gonna keep the elbows in tight. Push the tops of the feet down, push the hands down. Inhale, lift any amount by pushing your hands down. So before you were lifting without the use of your hands, now you can lift a little higher, but you might lift just to the same height, or you might really push the hands down and lift to a traditional Cobra. Wherever you're at, we're gonna stay for a few breaths. So if you're in Cobra, the hope is that your shoulders, elbows, and wrists make a straight line. So mostly to have, to check into your form, to have good alignment, joints are usually stacked. So instead of being here, which is often what I see, I can feel that this does not feel good in my low back. That doesn't feel good. So that's not the feeling we're going for. Hands are under the shoulders. You're gonna push your hands down to reach the crown of your head up and then broaden your collarbones. Draw your shoulder blades back like you're squeezing your upper back, like you're engaging those rhomboids again one last time. But you're gonna let your hips feel heavy, like the thighs are made of lead, sinking to the floor, but the crown of the head reaches. Take a breath. Inhale, exhale, slowly lower. Again, stack your hands, rest your forehead or your cheek. Take a few breaths. So even in Cobra, you should feel like you're working. Oftentimes in faster paced classes, we're only there for a moment, and it is easy to bypass the work that we need in Cobra, but it should take effort to be in that pose. Okay, take one more breath. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders. Push your hands down into the ground. Push your knees to lift your upper body, lift your torso. From here, we're gonna come to a seat. And here you don't need to sit on anything. You can just sit with your legs extended. Okay, so we've been back bending. We are gonna come back to another back bend, but let's take a twist. Let's change up the movement of the spine, sort of give that direction a break for a moment. So let's keep the right leg long. Bend the left knee so the bottom of the foot is flat on the ground to the inside of the thigh. You're more than welcome to keep the leg right here just as it is, or bring your foot to the outside of the thigh. If you do that, the base of your big toe needs to be down. And as you push that down, you might notice that your right sit bone lifts. That needs to come down, but then this needs to come down. So they tend to do this sort of teeter-totter thing, but they both need to be down. Okay. Flex your right foot, heel forward, toes to the sky. If you want to wrap that leg around, if that's in your practice, you can do that here too. But you're going to bring your left hand behind you like it's reaching for the back left corner of your mat. Your chest is still facing forward, so you're not reaching for it. You're just placing it down behind you. Right fingertips will reach to the sky as you inhale. Sit up tall. Exhale as you turn and twist over to the left. So you might wrap your arm around your leg. You might hook your tricep to your quad and use that as leverage to deepen the twist. But this should be a comfortable twist through your spine. Think about really turning your heart over to the left
And then maybe if it feels good in your neck, turn at your neck so you're looking over your left shoulder. If you spend a lot of time looking at computer screens or screens of any kind, maybe you stretch through your eyes and you look out of the left corners of your eyes as much as you can and stay for one more breath. And then blink your eyes back to neutral. Return your head and your neck, your shoulders and arms, upper back, mid back, low back, and legs. And of course, we will do that same pose on the second side. So left leg will stay long, right knee will bend. You are more than welcome to stay here. You can still do the same twist here, or bring the foot to the outside of the thigh, base of the big toe down, sit bone down. So instead of putting all your weight in one, distribute it evenly between the two. Left foot will stay flexed, toes to the sky. Protect your left knee. Right hand comes behind you. Keep your torso forward here, but it just comes behind you like it's reaching for the back right corner of your mat. Left fingertips will reach as you elongate the spine. Exhale as you rotate the spine. Arm might wrap around, tricep might hook to quad. But continue to elongate the spine as well as twist. A twist is not very productive if you're slouching in it. So we need a tall spine, and then we can take a twisted spine. So you might turn at your neck to look over your right shoulder. If you stretch your eyes on the first side, look out of the right corners of your eyes as much as you can. See if you can see past the spot you were just looking at on the first side. And take a deep breath. And then blink your eyes back to neutral. Return your head and neck, shoulders and arms, upper back, mid back, low back, and legs. Okay. So now we're going to use that pillow or that towel, whatever you've got. A towel, a blanket, a pillow is fine. In yoga, if we were at a studio, we would probably use a bolster. So if you have a bolster, I actually have a bolster. I guess I could have grabbed it. But a pillow is a better demonstration for most of you because you probably don't have bolsters. It's probably the one, the prop people at home have, the least amount of people have at home. That's the way that sentence would go. Okay. So we're going to come into a back bend. And we're going to use the pillow and we're going to place it sort of under our ribs. So think about that pelvic tilt we were doing when we were laying on our back and we were lifting the ribs up. We're basically going to do that with the pillow underneath us. It's not like bridge pose. If you would prefer supported bridge and you know what that is and you would prefer it and that feels good for you, you can do that. But instead, in this pose, we're going to have our seat and our hips and our sit bones on the floor. Ribs and spine will lift, shoulders on the floor. So you're going to, and I am going to probably bring this towel under the back of my head again. Something like that. Okay. So taking a seat, you're going to slide this so it comes at about, again, sort of your mid back. You can play with wherever it feels best. Like for me, I think I want it a little bit higher, almost under my shoulder blades. But we want the back of the head on the ground and ideally even the shoulders on the ground. So yeah, my shoulder blades are lifted, my ribs are lifted, but my shoulders up here are on the ground. So take your time getting in it. We're going to stay in this pose for a while. I like arms out in opposite directions, palms up. Getting more height. Yeah, so you might need something under the back of your head to support your neck. Because again, if the shoulders are on the ground, it's similar to the beginning of the class, the practice. But I want your spine to sort of make like a rainbow shape. Your hips are down, your ribs and spine lift up, and your shoulders are down. So it's not like a diagonal line, it's not everything lifts all together. It should make sort of a rainbow shape. Okay, and again, arms out in opposite directions, palms up, might feel good. You might keep your knees bent. I will most likely do that, but you might lengthen your legs. Yeah, I think I like my knees bent. But you do what feels good. This is about your body, your practice. Your body and my body are very different, and they require different things to feel the same level of sensation. So comparing your body or your practice to someone else is
silly, really. So just because I require this does not mean you require anything that looks like it. But again, the hope is that your spine makes this sort of rainbow shape. It might be a little tiny rainbow, it might be a steep one. But then we're just gonna rest. So let your eyelids feel heavy, so they softly close. Allow your pelvis, your seat, your sit bones, your hips to all feel very heavy on the ground. Knowing that heaviness is a passive quality. Heaviness is just letting gravity do its job. You're not pushing into the floor. You're not reaching for the floor. You're letting gravity pull your seat towards the center of the earth. And as you let your hips and your thighs and your pelvis feel heavy, being pulled to the center of the earth, your ribs feel light and lifted, like they're reaching for the sky. Like gravity has no effect on your ribs. You allow an upward, lifted, light sensation to travel through your ribs. But again, at the other end, there is heaviness in the shoulders. The shoulders are firm on the floor. The back of the head is firm on the floor. There's heaviness, grounding, a secure, stable anchor. So that light and lifted action in the center is secured. It's still tethered. It's stable on either end. So allow a comfortable back bend to exist here in your spine. Whether it's mild or intense, it's comfortable, and you're able to relax in it. So let's continue to do that for 3 more breaths. Okay, and then if your legs are long, one leg at a time, bend your knees so your feet are flat on the ground. Pause for a moment. And allow your upper body to enjoy some movement. Maybe rock the head, wiggle fingers, move wrists and arms. And we'll slowly roll off whatever it is you're on, a pillow, a blanket, a towel, roll all the way off it into a tucked fetal position on either side, resting your ear on your arm to support your head and neck. And just pause for a moment. And then slowly make your way again onto your back, pushing that prop off to the side, come onto your back, either with knees bent or legs long. Just notice the way your spine feels now. Maybe your ribs still feel light, or maybe they feel heavy along with the hips and shoulders. No right or wrong here. You're observing your body, your experience. Now take a deep breath in As you breathe out, hug your knees into your chest. One more time, you might massage your lower back. Maybe trace circles with your knees. I like to bring my hands on my kneecaps and trace circles like I'm stirring a pot. Of course, you've got to go in both directions. And then whenever you're ready, we're going to settle into Shavasana. So just like the rest of the practice, for the most part, I like something under my head in Shavasana. Again, something about this height. If you've got a thin pillow like this, that might work. But anything too firm or big won't be so good for the neck. Like a block is too big. This is too dense, too thick, it's too much. We want the neck in neutral. So if you were to open your eyes, you'd be looking straight up overhead, not at the wall in front of you. That shows me that it's too much in your neck. So you should be able to look up. That's one way to know. Okay. And you might lengthen your legs. You might keep your knees bent, depending on how your back feels. If when you lengthen your legs, you want to be here for your hips, but your lower back is feeling like it's maybe lifting up too much, it doesn't feel very good, take a pillow, a blanket, a towel, whatever, place it under the backs of your knees. So something like this. Bending the knee will help. Again, think in forward fold. The back side of your body has a continuous relation. That's the kinetic chain, the posterior chain. And so if your lower back is feeling something, bending the knees is usually a good way to sort of get out of that. So bending the knees here by just placing something under them might be the solution for you. But you take your time to set yourself up. I'm going to come up to a seat and I'm going to stay seated, but you make your way in a comfortable position, reclined on your back. That feels very good. Okay, and then once you settle into that position, let your whole body feel heavy. So a few moments ago, we talked about the hips feeling heavy and the shoulders feeling heavy, but letting a light quality pass over the midsection, over the ribs. But now let the whole backside feel heavy. Remembering that heaviness is a passive quality. It's about releasing into gravity's pull, softening into the floor beneath you, allowing the earth to cradle you, to hug you. It is supporting you, and it will always support you. So allow yourself to take on that support, rely on that support. And as you release into the support of the earth, everything can relax. Everything can relax. Relax, release, let go. Let go.
deepen your breath. And slowly rock your head from side to side. Run your thumbs over the rest of your fingers as you wiggle your toes. Roll wrists and ankles. Move arms and legs. You can reach your arms overhead, stretching as if you just woke up from a long nap. Fingertips and toes in opposite directions. Take a deep breath in. Then as you breathe out, hug your knees into your chest. And slowly roll over onto either side in a tucked fetal position, resting your ear on your arm. Keeping your eyes closed and using the strength of both arms, push down into the ground and come up to a comfortable seat. And take a moment here to thank yourself for making it to your mat today. And maybe reflect on your intention. Loka samasta sukhi no bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may the thoughts, words, and actions of my life contribute in some way to the happiness and freedom for all. Now slowly join your hands together in front of your heart in Anjali Mudra. To seal the practice, we'll chant the sound of Om one time. You're welcome to join me or just listen, but Om is said to be the oldest and most sacred mantra, the first sound that ever existed, and it exists in all living things. Again, we'll chant the sound of Om just one time. Let's start with a deep and clearing breath. Inhale for Om. The light or the good in me acknowledges, respects, and bows to the light or the good in you. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay healthy and safe. Bye.